ready to see the future through the lens of the past? Welcome to Endtime Prophecy Stories. Here we dive deep into ancient mysteries and uncover what lies ahead in a world filled with uncertainty. But we can't do it without you. If you want to stay prepared and never miss a revelation, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. And if you find value in these stories, give this video a like. It helps us reach more truth seekers just like you. Now let's open the seal on today's story. Chapter 1. The Fall of Babylon. The sirens did not whine, they screamed. It was a digital, oscillating shriek that bypassed the ears and vibrated in the teeth, a frequency designed by Pertholite defense systems to induce panic before the flash. Mark stood on the porch of the safe house, the coffee in his mug trembling, creating concentric rings of dark liquid. He looked south toward the city skyline, where the peace treaty had been signed only yesterday. The news feeds had been jubilant. "Peace in our time," they said. "A new era of unity." Then the sun rose in the west. It wasn't the sun. It was a searing, magnesium-white, expanding sphere that deleted the horizon. The sound didn't arrive immediately, just the light, stripping the shadows from the trees, bleaching the color from the grass. "Get down!" Dave roared, tackling Mark from the doorway. They hit the floorboards just as the pressure wave arrived. It wasn't a wind. It was a solid wall of air that pulverized the windows, turning the glass into diamond dust. The house groaned, the timber frame twisting like a wet rag, but it held. "To the hatch! Now! Now!" Dave scrambled up, blood running from his ear. They moved through the kitchen, grabbing the last go bags. The farmhouse was merely a shell, a distraction. The real house was 50 feet down, encased in 3 feet of lead-lined concrete. As they descended the spiral stairs, the ground shook rhythmically, like a titan hampering on the earth's crust. Thump, thump, thump. Secondary warheads. In the bunker's anteroom, the group was already gathering. Faces pale, eyes wide with a terror that transcended fear, the terror of a worldview shattering. Sarah was weeping in the corner, clutching a Bible. "We're still here," she sobbed, rocking back and forth. "We're still here. Pastor John said we'd be gone. He said the clothes would be left in piles. He said we wouldn't see the wrath." Mark locked the heavy steel wheel of the blast door, spinning it until the seals hissed. He turned to the group. The air filtration system hummed to life, a low drone that would become their silence for the next few years. "He lied, Sarah," Mark said, his voice surprisingly steady. "They all lied. The Laodicean lullaby is over. This isn't the wrath of God yet. This is the wrath of man." A pounding on the outer hull door, faint, muffled by layers of steel and earth, stopped them. Dave looked at the monitors. The external cameras were static, fried by the EMP, but one hardened analog periscope still worked. He peered through the optical relay. "It's a man," Dave said. "He's burning. Not fire. Radiation burns. He's pounding on the door." "We can't open it," Mark said. "The fallout is falling right now." "He's got a suit on, but the helmet is cracked," Dave said. "Wait. I know him. It's Rick, from the supply run in the city." "Rick?" Sarah looked up. "The mechanic?" "He's not a believer, Mark," Dave whispered. "He laughed at us when we bought the grain." Mark closed his eyes. The Christian imperative warred with survival logic. "If we open that door, we contaminate the airlock. We risk everyone." "If we don't," Sarah said, her voice trembling, "are we any different than the ones dropping the bombs?" Mark gritted his teeth. "Cycle the airlock. Get the Geiger counters. Dave, get your rifle just in case." They cycled the lock. Rick stumbled in, coughing up blood, his skin red and blistering. He collapsed onto the decontamination grate. They stripped him, scrubbed him, and injected him with iodine blockers. As Rick lay on the infirmary cot, gasping for air, he looked at Mark with eyes that held no gratitude, only a cold, calculating assessment of the resources around him. "You were right," Rick rasped, a crooked smile forming on his cracked lips. "The crazy Jesus freaks were right." Mark looked down at him. "Rest, Rick. The world ended today. We have a long time to wait." Rick closed his eyes, but his mind didn't sleep. He was counting the cans on the shelves he had seen. He was calculating odds. He was a survivor, and survivors didn't need God. They needed leverage. Chapter 2. The Winnowing. 6 months underground. Time had lost its shape. Day and night were determined by the dimming of the LED strips in the ceiling. The air was recycled, stale, and smelled perpetually of ozone and recycled sweat. Mark and Dave had established a routine: morning prayer, rationing, equipment maintenance, scripture study, evening prayer. It was a monastery of the apocalypse. The group had thinned, not in number but in spirit. The initial shock had worn off, replaced by the crushing weight of confinement. But for the believers, the true ones, faith was hardening into something diamond-like. They studied the prophecies. They mapped the timeline. They knew this was the beginning of sorrows. Rick, however, was a cancer in the body. He had recovered from the radiation sickness, though it left him with a patchy alopecia and a persistent cough. He made himself useful, fixing the filtration pumps when they seized, rewiring the solar battery array. He became indispensable. "You know," Rick said one evening, sitting across from Dave at the metal mess table. He was pushing his canned beans around with a spoon. "We have enough ammo in the locker to take over the neighboring bunker, the one the preppers built down the valley." Dave looked up, his brow furrowing. "Why would we do that? We have supplies." "They have a hydroponic garden," Rick said smoothly. "Fresh greens, vitamins. Sarah looks pale, Dave. She's losing hair. Scurvy, maybe. Don't you want to save her?" "We don't steal," Dave said, "and we certainly don't kill." Rick shrugged, leaning back. "Just thinking tactically. Survival of the fittest, right?" "That's the logic of the world up there," Dave pointed upward. "That world is dead. We live by the kingdom's laws down here." Rick smirked. "Kingdoms need kings, Dave, and armies." Later that night, Sarah found Mark in the communications room. He was listening to the static on the shortwave, hunting for a signal. "Mark," she whispered. "What is it, Sarah?" "It's Rick." Mark took off his headphones. "What about him? He fixed the water heater today." "I saw him in the pantry," she said. "He wasn't eating. He was inventorying. He was writing things down in a notebook, and he was messing with the transponder you said was broken." Mark frowned. "The emergency beacon? That thing is fried." "He had it open. He was soldering something." "Mark, he's not one of us. When we pray, he doesn't participate. He just watches. He watches us like we're specimens." Mark rubbed his temples. "We can't kick him out, Sarah. The atmosphere outside is still toxic. It would be a death sentence." "He's going to betray us," she said, her voice terrified. "I felt it when he looked at me. It's like Judas, Mark. He's waiting for his 30 pieces of silver." Mark put a hand on her shoulder. "We stay vigilant, but we walk in love. If we lose our humanity down here, the enemy wins without firing a shot." Sarah nodded, but as she walked away, Mark turned back to the broken transponder sitting on the shelf. He picked it up. A new wire had been bypassed across the main circuit. It wasn't fixed to receive. It was fixed to transmit. Chapter 3. The Architects of Hell. Deep beneath the Swiss Alps, in a bunker that resembled a luxury hotel more than a survival shelter, the air smelled of lavender and filtered oxygen. Cardinal Valeri, now simply known as the General, sat at the head of a long obsidian table. He wore a black suit, simple, unadorned. The trappings of the priesthood were gone. They were no longer necessary. To his right sat Julian DeMarco, the CEO of Pertholite Industries. Julian was a handsome man, with eyes that seemed too bright, too blue. He was the face of the future, the technocrat messiah. "The surface saturation is complete," Julian said, swiping a hologram into the air above the table. "Population reduction is at 88%. The remaining survivors are scattered, traumatized, and leaderless. The perfect clay." The general nodded slowly. "And the Vatican?" "Dust," Julian said. "As you ordered. The public pope, God rest his confused soul, was vaporized in the first volley while praying in the square. The imagery was perfect. Religion died with him." "Old religion died," the general corrected. "True religion is about to be born." He stood up and walked to a massive reinforced window that looked out not at the outside world, but into a vast cavern where drones were constructing the frame of a biodome. "The people who emerge will be desperate for order," the general said. "They will crave a savior. We will give them two things, bread and circuses. But the bread will be poisoned, and the circus will never end." Julian tapped the table. "The atmospheric conditioning systems for the 10 megacities are ready for deployment. We've synthesized the compound, PAX-9. It's an aerosolized neuroinhibitor. It targets the prefrontal cortex, reduces critical thinking, heightens suggestibility, and induces a mild, euphoric reliance on authority." "And the delivery?" "The air they breathe," Julian smiled. "The very atmosphere of the domes will keep them docile. They will love their servitude. They will thank us for the chains because the chains will be made of gold and Wi-Fi." The general turned back to the table. "And the worship?" "The theology is prepared," Julian said. "Evolutionary deification. Lucifer not as the devil, but as the Prometheus, the light-bringer who freed humanity from the tyranny of the Adonai. We will teach that the nuclear war was the final breaking of the chains of the old God. We are the creators now." "Excellent," the general whispered. "The deadly wound will soon be healed. The world will wonder after the beast. How long until the radiation levels drop enough to open the domes?" 7 years, Julian said. 7 years of darkness. Then we turn on the lights. Chapter 4, Year 0. The hatch wheel groaned, a scream of rusted metal that echoed the agony of a birthed world. Mark pushed. The hydraulic assist whined and died, forcing them to use brute strength. With a crack that sounded like a gunshot, the seal broke. Sunlight, real, unfiltered sunlight, sliced into the gloom of the bunker. They climbed out, shielding their eyes. The farmhouse was gone. The forest was gone. The world was a canvas of gray ash and black stumps. But in the distance, miles away across the valley, something shimmered. It was a dome, a colossal, translucent bubble rising from the ruins of the old city. Inside, even from this distance, they could see greenery, tall silver spires, and flying vehicles moving in orderly lanes. "It's beautiful," someone whispered. "It's a trap," Dave muttered, checking his Geiger counter. "Background radiation is high, but survivable. We need to move. The water table here is poisoned." They gathered their meager supplies. 7 years of eating algae paste and canned beans had left them gaunt. They looked like ghosts haunting a graveyard. Rick stood at the edge of the crater, staring at the dome. He had a small device in his hand, the transponder. "Rick," Mark said, stepping up behind him. "Put it away!" Rick turned, and for the first time in 7 years, he didn't hide his contempt. "You think we can survive out here, Mark? Eating beetles and sleeping in ash? Look at that." He pointed to the dome. That's civilization. That's Pertholite. That's the cage, Mark said. We talked about this. The New World Order. It's exactly what the book said would happen. The book, Rick spat. The book didn't save the billions of people who vaporized. Science did. Technology did. I'm going there, Mark, and I'm taking the group with me. No one is going, Dave said, stepping up with his rifle. Rick laughed. He pressed a button on the transponder. I already called them. They've been tracking us for a week. They need workers. Healthy, radiation-free genetics. That's us. We're currency. A hum filled the air. Not the hum of insects, but the whine of turbines. 3 sleek black drones, shaped like teardrops, descended from the clouds. They didn't have propellers. They moved on anti-gravitic propulsion. The logo on the side was a stylized pyramid with a split eye. Pertholite. Run! Mark yelled. But there was nowhere to run. The drones emitted a pulse of blue light. Mark felt his muscles lock, his nervous system short-circuiting. He fell to the ash, conscious but paralyzed. He watched as armed men in white bio-armor descended from a transport craft. They moved efficiently, tagging the survivors like cattle. Rick walked up to the commander of the unit. He handed over the transponder. The commander nodded and handed Rick a silver data pad. Rick looked down at Mark. Nothing personal, Pastor. Just evolution. Chapter 5. The Gilded Cage. Mark woke up in a room that was too white. The walls, the floor, the ceiling, all a seamless, polished white polymer. He sat up. He was wearing a gray tunic. No pain. In fact, he felt good. Too good. His mind felt fuzzy, warm, like he had just drunk a glass of wine on an empty stomach. The air, he thought. The chemical. He stumbled to the door. It slid open automatically. He stepped out onto a balcony and gasped. He was high up, maybe 100 stories. Below him spread Nova Babylon. It was a paradise of geometry and light. Hanging gardens draped over silver skyscrapers. Holographic art danced in the air. People moved on moving walkways dressed in vibrant silks. There was no trash, no decay, no noise of conflict. But there were statues. Everywhere. Massive golden statues of a winged being holding a torch. Lucifer. Impressive, isn't it? Mark spun around. A man stood there. He was tall, wearing a tailored suit that seemed to shift colors. I am Director Kale, the man said. Welcome to Sector 4. Where are my people? Mark demanded. Processing, Kale said soothingly. They are being integrated, given their chips, cleansed of the outside pathogens. The mark, Mark whispered. Kale chuckled. BioLink, actually. It manages your health, your credits, your access. Without it, you can't really participate. But don't worry about that now. We have a special role for you, Mark. Rick told us about your leadership qualities. Rick is a traitor. Rick is a visionary level 4 now, Kale said. He serves the light. You see, Mark, the old world failed because it worshipped a god of suffering, a god who demanded sacrifice. Here, we worship the Lightbringer, the one who gave man knowledge. We celebrate human potential. Look at this city. Did prayer build this, or did human will? Mark gripped the railing. The euphoria from the air was fighting his conscience, trying to make him agree, trying to make him smile. He had to focus. He bit his tongue until he tasted blood. The pain sharpened his mind. It's a lie, Mark spat. It's a beautiful, whitewashed tomb. Kale's smile didn't falter, but his eyes went cold. You are resistant. High tolerance to the PAX-9. Interesting. We will have to adjust your dosage. Until then, you are free to wander the plaza, but do not try to leave the dome. The outside air is incompatible with life. Mark walked the streets of Nova Babylon. He saw the citizens. They were beautiful, healthy, and smiling, but their eyes were glassy. They walked with a floaty, dreamlike gait. He passed a cathedral, not a church, a temple of reason. Inside, a holographic projection of the false prophet, Julian DeMarco, was speaking. And so we cast off the shackles of the superstition of the cross. We embrace the serpent's gift, knowledge, immortality. We are the gods now. The congregation raised their hands, revealing the glowing implants in their right hands. They chanted in unison. Lux lucet, light shines. Mark hid his hand in his tunic. He was an alien in a world of angels. Chapter 6. The Remnant Underground. Mark found Dave 3 weeks later. Dave was working in the waste recycling levels, the bowels of the city where the PAX-9 concentration was lower. Dave was sweeping floors, but his eyes were sharp. He hadn't taken the chip. "How?" Mark whispered, pulling Dave into a maintenance alcove. "How did you avoid it?" "Glitch in the system," Dave grinned, showing a missing tooth. "Or Providence. Rick listed me as deceased on the transport manifest. Wanted to keep my share of the rewards, I guess. I slipped out of the intake facility. I've been living in the vents." "Sarah?" Dave's face fell. "She took it, Mark. She broke. The drugs, the fear. She wanted to see her kids again, even though they died in the blast. The projection tech showed her images of them. She took the chip to be with them." Mark slid down the wall. "We have to get them out." "We can't," Dave said. "The chip links to the nervous system. You try to cut it out, it sends a shock that stops the heart. They are slaves, Mark. Content, happy slaves." "Not all of them," a voice came from the shadows. A woman stepped out. She was young, wearing a stolen maintenance uniform. "I'm Lydia. There are others. People whose physiology rejects the PAX-9. We see the truth. We see the demons behind the holograms." "The Remnant," Mark said. "We have a printing press," Lydia said. "Old school, ink on paper. The AI can't scrub it if it's physical. We've been printing tracts, the 3 angels' messages. Fear God and give glory to him," Mark recited. "For the hour of his judgment is come." Lydia nodded. "The climax is coming, Mark. The Jesuit General, he goes by the Pontifex now. He's issued a decree. In 42 months, the transition period ends. Total allegiance will be required." "What happens then?" "Sunday," Lydia said. "They are reclaiming Sunday, not as the Lord's Day, but as the day of the sun, the day of Apollo, the day of Lucifer. Mandatory worship, attendance taken by the chip. If you aren't there, your chip is turned off. You can't buy food, you can't open doors, you starve." Mark looked at Dave, then at Lydia. "Then we have 42 months to wake up as many as we can." Chapter 7. The Dragon's Voice. 3.5 years passed. The underground resistance grew, moving like a virus through the gleaming arteries of Nova Babylon. They left pamphlets on the maglev trains. They graffitied verses on the statues of the beast. They hacked the holographic billboards for seconds at a time to flash images of the cross. The regime tightened its grip. The PAX-9 dosage in the air was increased. The news feeds became constant, 24/7 streams of hysteria against the fundamentalist terrorists who hated progress, who hated peace, who hated you. Rick was now a high-ranking inquisitor. He wore a black trench coat and moved with the arrogance of a man who believed he was on the winning side of history. He hunted his old friends with a zeal that bordered on obsession. The Pontifex addressed the world from the balcony of the Vatican reborn. "Citizens of the new Aeon," his voice boomed across the 10 cities. The time of tolerance is over. There are those among us who cling to the old superstitions. They are the cancer in our collective consciousness. They prevent our ascension." The crowd roared, a sound of chemically induced rage. "Next Sunday," the pontifex raised a fist, "the day of unification. Every citizen of Earth will gather in their sector squares. You will kneel. You will pledge your soul to the Lightbringer. You will reject the Nazarene. Those who do not will be purged from the system. Literally." In the maintenance tunnels, Mark watched the feed on a stolen tablet. "This is it," he said to the small group gathered around him. About 50 of them, ragged, hungry, but their eyes were clear. "The image of the beast is set up. The mark is enforced. The probation closes." "We need to go up," Dave said. "One last time. We need to warn them before the seal is set." "It's suicide," Lydia said. "It's the commission," Mark replied. "Babylon is fallen. Come out of her, my people." Chapter 8: The Loud Cry. The night before, the city was vibrating with anticipation for the unification. Mark, Dave, and the others surfaced in Sector 7, the entertainment district. They carried backpacks filled with flyers. They carried megaphones hacked to override the audio dampeners. They split up. Mark took the central plaza. He climbed onto the base of a fountain. The crowd was thick, people drinking nectar that glowed blue, laughing, dancing. Mark raised the megaphone. "Men of Babylon!" The sound cut through the ambient techno music. Heads turned, drones swiveled. "Worship him who made heaven and earth, the sea and the springs of water." "Shut up," someone yelled. A bottle shattered near Mark's feet. "Do not worship the beast or his image," Mark continued, his voice echoing off the glass towers. "If you receive the mark, you drink the wine of God's wrath." Rick appeared from the crowd, flanked by 2 cyborg enforcers. He looked at Mark, his eyes dead. "I gave you a chance, Mark," Rick said, his voice amplified by his suit. "I offered you the world." "You offered me dust, Rick," Mark shouted. "Look at yourself. You're a slave to a lie." Rick signaled the enforcers. "Take him, publicly. Flay him." The crowd cheered. The bloodlust was palpable. The Pax 9 had removed their empathy. They wanted a show. Dave broke cover from a nearby balcony, dropping a smoke grenade. "Mark, move!" Chaos erupted. The believers scattered, throwing their flyers into the air. Paper rained down like snow, scripture falling on a godless city. Mark ran. He ducked into an alleyway, his lungs burning. He could hear the heavy footsteps of the enforcers. He scrambled up a fire escape, the metal groaning. He made it to the roof. He looked out over the city. Across the 10 sectors, he saw other flashes of light, other smoke plumes. The 144,000 were speaking. The final warning was going out. Chapter 9: The Sealing. Sunday morning, the unification. The sun rose, but it looked sickly through the dome, filtered to a golden hue. The streets were lined with millions of people. They stood in perfect rows, ordered by their rank. Silence fell over the cities. On the massive screens, the false prophet appeared. He held a chalice. "Drink," he commanded. "Drink the spirit of the new age." Simultaneously, mist sprayers across the city released a concentrated dose of the psychedelic agent. The crowd inhaled. A collective moan of ecstasy rose up. "Now," the prophet said, "kneel, denounce the old, accept the new." Millions knelt. But in the cracks, in the alleys, in the vents, and even standing boldly in the back of the squares, thousands stood. Mark stood on the rooftop, visible to the drones. He didn't kneel. Dave stood in the plaza, surrounded by angry citizens. He didn't kneel. Sarah, poor Sarah, in the crowd, tears streaming down her face, fought the chemical haze. She looked at her hand, at the glowing chip. She looked at the screen. And with a scream of agony, she grabbed a piece of jagged debris and slashed at her own hand, trying to cut it out. "I renounce you!" she screamed. "Jesus, save me!" She was struck down by a guard instantly. It was too late. A strange silence fell over the world. It wasn't the silence of the city. It was a silence in the heavens. The half hour of silence had begun. Mark felt it, a heat, not from the sun, but from inside. A clarity. The fear vanished, completely. He looked at his hands. They seemed to glow with a faint, terrible light. Not the technological glow of the chip, but the Shekinah glory, the seal of the living God. He looked across the roof to the next building. Another believer was standing there, glowing with the same light. The decision was made. The wheat and the tares were separated. The door of the ark was shut. Chapter 10. The Noisome Sore. Rick stood on the VIP platform, watching the ceremony. He felt a surge of triumph. The world was united. He raised his glass of wine to his lips. "To Lucifer," he whispered, "the victor." He took a sip. It tasted like copper, like bile. He frowned. He set the glass down. His hand was itching, the hand with the implant, the hand that had signed the death warrants of his friends. He scratched it. The itch burned hotter. He looked down. The skin around the implant was purple, swollen. "Director?" an aide asked. "Are you all right?" Rick clawed at his hand. The skin split, but no blood came out, only a foul black ichor. A scream pierced the air, then another, then 1,000. Rick looked out at the plaza. The kneeling millions were no longer chanting. They were writhing. People were tearing at their clothes. They were clawing at their faces, their chests, everywhere the biotech had integrated with their nervous system. "My hand! Oh God, my hand!" someone shrieked. Rick fell to his knees, clutching his rotting arm. The pain was absolute. It was a physical manifestation of the spiritual rot he had embraced. On the screen, the false prophet was scratching at his neck, his perfect composure shattering into animalistic panic. Mark watched from the roof. He felt no pain. The air around him was clear. The PAX-9 no longer affected him. He looked up at the artificial dome. The sky beyond it was turning dark, the color of a bruise. The sirens began to wail again, just like they had on the first day. But this time there were no bombs. This time the destruction was coming from within. Rick looked up, his eyes meeting Mark's distant figure on the roof. Rick's face was covered in boils now, his beauty destroyed. He reached out a hand, not in anger but in begging. Mark looked at him with infinite sadness. There was no joy in the judgment, only the terrible finality of it. "It is done," Mark whispered. The first plague was falling. The worship of the beast had become the mark of death. And as the screams of the city rose to meet the darkening sky, the 144,000, the last day elect of God, waited for the fire that would cleanse the earth forever. The silence of heaven was over. The roar of the Lamb had begun.
For more Bible-based end-time prophecy dramas to strengthen your faith and the faith of others, help spread the word by supporting the channel. Please like, subscribe, and share.